and welcome to yet another edition of Sustainability 100 Plus Dialogues 2021 with our sustainability partner ABN Bev. And what we're going to do is take this entire sustainability dialogue and break it down by states. And today let's focus on the state of Haryana and interact with some change makers and understand from them what kind of equitable solutions and innovations can they suggest and can we talk about that will help Haryana achieve its Sustainable Development Goals or SDGs. Joining us is a very, very august panel. I'm very happy to be able to converse with all of them today. Minia Chatterjee is CEO of Sustain Labs, Pari. We've got Madhu Verma, Chief Economist, World Resources Institute, India. Akanksha Sharma is Global Head, Sustainability, Social Impact, Sterlite Technologies Limited. Ashwani Pahuja is the Chief Sustainability Officer and Executive Director, Dalmia Cement, Bharat Limited. We have Vikas Verma, the Regional Head of North Region, United Nations Development Program, and Abhinav Dandona, Regional Director, North India, ABN Bev. Hello to everyone, and let me first start with Abhinav itself and then set the ball rolling. Let's start with ABN Bev. What are the sustainability initiatives, specific to Haryana, especially on water and agriculture, that have been undertaken? Abhinav.
Hey everyone, thanks for having me over. So AB InBev as a company, we have a purpose which talks about bringing people together for a better world. And what that means is that sustainability is a part of the way we work. In that accord, we have made 2025 sustainability goals in line with the UN sustainability goals. Talking about smart agriculture, it is linked with our commitment that 100% of our direct farmers will be skilled, connected, and better from a financial point of view. On that accord, we've partnered with a lot of agrotech firms, startups as well, Kisan Hub, Zoom Agri, etc., which has really helped us to upskill the game of the farmers by providing them the right kind of information. We have a big bunch of scientists who work on a daily basis, helping them on how the soil should be treated, so on and so forth, which can just give them science and data to help them get better at their craft, so to speak. Talking about the other one, which is water stewardship, over there as well, our goal is that 100% of our water hit areas are actually worked on. With that, we've partnered with a company called Force, where we've been able to have 8 watersheds already, which have provided 1.3 lakh kiloliters of water to the communities and helped the lives of 16,000 people who are impacted in that area, so to speak. Right. The other 2 are related to climate action and circular packaging.
Well, interesting conversation building up here on Sustainability 100 Plus, and joining us now is the CEO of Niti Aayog, Mr. Amitabh Kant. Amitabh ji, namaste. Thank you very, very much for taking the time out to have this conversation. And my first question to you, sir, is in what ways does this SDG India Index and this dashboard that's been created, which annually ranks Indian states based on their SDG performance, how has that helped shape India's SDG framework adoption?
The SDG India Index and Dashboard is the world's first government-led measure of the status and progress on SDGs at the subnational level. Several states, particularly Haryana, Uttarakhand, Karnataka, Gujarat, UP, are fast developing specialized SDG-oriented institutions to effectively localize the SDGs. And Haryana has done some very outstanding work to converge SDGs along with its budget, and I greatly appreciate their efforts.
There's a lot that's been done, and Akanksha ji, I want to understand from you. In 2017, the government of Haryana actually created Vision 2030 based on the UN SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals 2015. Where does the state stand today in terms of realizing this vision?
It's very interesting to see that after the SDG Coordination Center has been established, some really progressive work has happened towards the vision document of 2017. And let me share some facts here. So, for example, the percentage of old age beneficiaries to receive institutional care has increased by over 20%. Through marginal access to clean drinking water, it has really moved up from around 93% in 2017 to 94%, in 2019. The sex ratio, which is really critical for the state, has improved from 844 females per thousand males to over 900 females over 1,000 males. So I think the state has really been performing phenomenally well on these indicators, because though you see a marginal increase, it takes a lot to work with all the resource constraints that we have.
Amitabhji, in 2017, the government of Haryana created Vision 2030. Now, where does the state stand today in realizing this vision? It has made strides in the SDG India Index, but what kind of roadblocks have impeded the progress?
State UTs are the key drivers for achieving the SDGs in our federal setup. Now, states are going down to districts and block levels. Haryana is amongst the rare few states in the country to have organized sensitization programs for official up to the panchayat level. And I greatly appreciate what Haryana has done. So Haryana, I envisage that in the year 2021, Haryana will see a marked improvement and will make a huge difference in the coming years.
Now, I'm very curious to understand from Ashwani ji also one aspect where, if I remember correctly, the UN Climate Ambition Summit 2020, Dalmia Cement, wasn't it, that you pledged to become carbon negative by 2040? So can you tell us some of the initiatives that the company is undertaking to meet this goal?
Yeah, certainly. In fact, the Dalmia Cement's vision is to be a leader in building materials to evoke pride in all our stakeholders through customer centricity, innovation, sustainability, and our values. So since sustainability has been included in our vision and also in our value chain, we take pride in becoming sustainable over the years. As a result of which, in line with the philosophy which our group has, that is to be clean and green, is both profitable as well as sustainable. So we have created a vision of becoming carbon negative by 2040. Since 1990, we have already reduced our carbon footprint by 44%. As a result of our measures, we have already been ranked number 1 by CDP, that is Carbon Disclosure Project of UK, in cement sector on business readiness for low carbon transition.
This entire target of having 450 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030, how tough or easy is that?
Well, India is well ahead on the path of clean energy revolution against the ambitious target of 450 gigawatt of renewable energy generation capacity by 2030. 137 gigawatt has already been grid connected as on December 31st, 2020, an increase of 83% since 2014. Our progress towards sustainable energy is impressive, despite all challenges related to variability, storage capabilities, land requirement, technology, and human resource constraints. To enhance energy efficiency, efficient grid operation strategies that encompass upgradation of grid technology, grid operation protocols, and grid planning practices are required.
Moving to alternative fuel, moving towards using non-fossil fuel based for fueling your plants. Should we take another 15 years? Can that be speeded up? You've set up deadlines, and should those be extendable, flexible, or should they actually contract so that we get onto it faster, especially in states like Haryana? Let me take this to Madhu Verma ji, Chief Economist, World Resources Institute. Madhu ji, one of the aspects is that when we talk about SDGs, policy making has to come, has to flow through. The state government and its policies and its approach has to ensure that by default the focus is, and the policies are centered around ensuring that we meet SDGs, and we are also looking at sustainability 100 years hence. Do you think Haryana has done that?
Haryana can take great advantage, and I think can go a little faster in achieving the SDGs is going to solarization of not just agriculture, all sectors across. Because we have a big solar mission, and definitely because of solarization of agriculture, you reduce pressure on the subsidies which are tightly given. They are not, because the subsidy, a scarce resource is being made available in abundance.
Well, Amitabh ji, let me ask you this. What is it that we as a nation can do to accelerate achievement of SDGs and also propel development and its progress further? What kind of policy changes do you think could aid this progress?
See, localization of SDGs is crucial to any strategy aimed at achieving the goals under the 2030 agenda. There should also be countrywide sensitization, awareness development, and capacity building of all stakeholders to strengthen ownership and commitment. Early lessons on localization inform us of the need to move from a whole of government to a whole of society approach. Further, given that the SDGs are highly interlinked, there is a strong need to move away from a silo-based functioning and embrace both horizontal and vertical convergence of multiple government agencies at different levels.
Moving towards this per drop, more crop kind of a position where you don't look at only staples, you look at other crops too.
I think there's one point that I would like to make, that of course technology and the use of technology has improved. What we're seeing is that some of the large players are able to do that, and the same goes for the corporates in Haryana, for example, Maruti or an Eicher, these big companies, as well as in agriculture as well, some of the larger entities, they are able to take steps, progressive steps. But what we need to now engage in making them more sustainable is the small and medium-sized enterprises, the small and medium-sized entities.
How's Haryana as a state been doing? Because you are the regional head for the United Nations Development Program.
In terms of actions Haryana has done, it has taken many other steps, which is integrating the schemes to a particular output level and outcomes level. Integrating and identifying budget areas, let's say which scheme is hitting which SDGs, and having a very clear-cut plan that this is the area in which we lack as per the SDG index. Let's put in a lot more money here, lot more resources here, and take policy initiatives on that path. In fact, as you all know, Haryana is a front runner in 7 goals in index, performer in 1, and aspirant in 7 goals. So there are certain areas which we are still working. But I think Akanksha already talked about the areas which we have improved a lot. And again here, UNDP worked and created an Atmanirbhar Bharat tracker for the states, which was adopted first by Haryana, Karnataka, and then Punjab.
But Akanksha ji, let me ask you this. How has Haryana embraced technology in terms of achieving SDGs?
Yeah, sure. You see, the Startup Haryana Mission and the Department of IT, they have partnered with India Accelerator to form India's only institution with a global accelerator network. And this is really interesting because I believe that this association will help the state create an ecosystem that stimulates innovation and growth of disruptive startups. And Haryana definitely needs that. In addition to this, the Almo Lab, which is in a way another example that has helped ANMs to collect the patient data in the rural networks and make this data available directly to the health ministry. All of this tells us that how the state is taking proactive steps to, improvise on and plug in technology wherever required.
Amitabh, in what ways, technology, how is technology at the forefront of India's strategies to actually achieve SDGs? What kind of innovations can boost sustainable development? Can you share a few examples, please?
India is fast emerging as an epicenter of technological and digital solutions, and we want to make India the tech garage of the world. We are fast harnessing science and technology innovations to solve modern-day challenges, cutting across sectors like health, water, sanitation, education, agriculture, waste management, and artificial intelligence. The Arogya Setu mobile app developed in the wake of the pandemic is a unique example of how we leverage technology to manage an unprecedented crisis.
In terms of what more can Haryana do? What are the 4 or 5 things that you think Haryana needs to build in terms of a robust sustainability framework?
Well, first of all, I'll begin with agriculture because it's one of the largest sector provides amount to the GSDP of Haryana state. I think Haryana is taking also lead in implementing climate smart sort of villages initiatives, and the couple of villages which have adopted a couple of such interventions like laser land leveling, changes in crop variety and stress tolerant varieties, zero tillage crop diversification, direct seeded rice, and so on and so forth. A couple of other interventions are being made, and they are really making sea change in terms of having a kind of a systems approach to the problem to the issues of achieving SDGs, because as I said, we were just focusing on per hectare yield. Now we have to move on,
Yeah.
go on and go take agroecology or the entire agriculture as the entire value chain to be considered for that particular purpose.
Avinya, how would you put down? What are the 4 or 5 aspects that you would put down, and what is the role that industry can play?
One thing that we really need to do in the state of Haryana, where I think corporates can play a role, the government can play a role, is to extend some of these policies to the children on the street, because that's really the future, and they are the ones who can then do, also take care of themselves and the planet. So I think that's number one. We need to do something about that because they are not documented, so none of the policies actually apply to them. I would urgent need. And the second would be agriculture, continuing to diversify in their crops. The third would be, some of the good work, some of the role models in the corporate sector, to your point as well. You have some excellent companies having targets, some of my co-panelists mentioned about targets, having science-based targets, teaching other small and medium companies to set science-based targets, to report, to be transparent, and therefore make progress in a data-backed and scientific manner on their sustainability performance. So that would be my third submission.
Is this something which companies are now thinking, not just looking at their own individual footprint or carbon print, but also saying that can we develop the area around us? Can we adopt a block and develop that block and make it self-sufficient, so that we don't have 6 million children on the streets, because these children are coming from somewhere, isn't it? They're coming in from the villages, they're coming in from the rural areas to the urban centers and cities, hoping that they will have a better future. But they're just worse off, not better off.
Industry also has a role to play in this, that they have to develop in clusters so that they don't allow the population to shift to urban centers. Rather, they should develop townships around their own industrial clusters.
True, very well said. And Vikas, don't you think block level economics has a role to play here in terms of if we were to really have to work towards SDGs?
SDGs is all about not doing business as usual, really breaking, looking at innovations, how to do it. One of the things which you just said is very, very true. The other bit which is very clear is that unless we make our rural areas sustainable, our agriculture sustainable, where people can very good life sitting in the rural areas and employment and money, they will continue to come into the urban area. Having said that, the second part of it has to be also looked at, and I think this is one area which all the corporates should start working towards, is the green economy area.
If we are able to take development, and that's the onus on companies like AB and Bev, that if you're going to build economies around you, you're going to build clusters around where your factories are, rather than setting up the factories where the cluster already exists.
No, I can't agree more with you and the fellow panelists who've spoken about this, because that's really the sustainable way of doing sustainability, right? I genuinely believe that tactical initiatives end up becoming only tactical. So if we want to have a higher purpose, we need to be able to do that. And when we do a lot of work in improving and working with women so that we can improve their livelihood as well, which impacts the community in a big way. We use a lot of our, byproduct, which is high protein product as a result of beer getting manufactured, which is then used for cattle, because it's extremely high product. In fact, in other countries, it's actually used to make protein bars, etc., so to speak. The point that I want to land is that, there's so much research that talks about even consumers being actually loyal to brands and companies which are working in a sustainable way.
Final word, I have to wind up this discussion to Akanksha.
Absolutely, Anand. I think, sustainability definitely needs to be looked at in a very holistic manner. And I believe one of the most important things, like you also and other panelists mentioned, is to bring in transformation, anywhere by including communities, not just as partners and not just as beneficiaries. So yes, of course, it needs to be multi-stakeholder and a very holistic, step going forward.
Yeah. Let me ask you, what are the next steps or the way forward for fulfilling Haryana SDG Vision 2030? And what can other states learn about SDG implementation from Haryana?
Well, what Haryana has done is that all SDG targets, SDG indicators are mapped against the output, well-defined annual physical targets, outcome of each scheme program, as well as allocated budget for the scheme program department-wise. The efforts are also, Haryana is also making efforts to monitor implementation and achievement of the scheme's output, outcome and budget spending under each SDG target, SDG indicator to assess the progress.
Amitabh Kantji, thank you very, very much for taking the time out to join us and also to share with us what is it that the government's initiatives are and the plans are, laying out the roadmap for Sustainability 100+. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. It's been wonderful talking sustainability, talking Haryana, and talking vision for the future with all of you. Wonderful having this conversation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.